So I got an Echoing Green Fellowship, and one of the things about my disability is that I can't stand up for more than about 10 seconds before I start losing blood pressure and get very lightheaded. And in the early stages, before I had a little handy cane, I would just sort of lie down on the sidewalk on a fairly regular basis. And I think in part because of that, I had developed a real interest in homeless people who were my companions on the sidewalk, and went to work for the Homeless Advocacy Project here in San Francisco, part of the Volunteer Legal Services Program of the Bar Association of San Francisco. I did that for 8 years, during which time I was trying to get the ADA to really apply to the huge numbers of people with disabilities who are homeless, and get city government, federal government, state government to recognize that the systems themselves essentially made it impossible for someone who qualified for the benefits to get them. That you had to go through so many hoops to be able to get your SSI benefits, for example, that if you could go through those hoops on your own, you didn't qualify for the benefit because you could hold down a job. So the city eventually got sued for not doing a transition plan, a self-evaluation and transition plan, and I helped advise those folks. Willie Brown decided one way to settle the lawsuit was to set up the Mayor's Office on Disability in San Francisco. I was invited to apply for the Programmatic Access Deputy Director position for that. I did, and I worked for about 4 years before the director was asked to leave, and I was given a choice of taking the position of directorship or having someone who had no experience with disability issues come in and direct the office. So it's not actually something that I had planned on doing, but I've been the director for the Mayor's Office on Disability for 7 years now. And its goal is to make sure that every program, service, benefit, and activity and facility in the city and county of San Francisco is accessible. Not every private business, we're trying to get them too, but really our mandate is to make sure that the city-owned and operated businesses and services are accessible to people with disabilities.
Great. My name is Noah Smith, and I just finished law school at Berkeley, like I said, in December. And in many ways, I feel like I'm the kind of person that has just really benefited from the passage of the ADA and sort of all the advocacy work that has gone into accessibility and people with disabilities in the legal profession. And so I'm really grateful for that. Of course, there's a long way to go, but I'm just really grateful for the opportunities that I've had. I broke my neck in a car accident in 2002, and the driver was responsible for the accident was uninsured, and so I was on Medicare and Medicaid for, I don't know, 7 years or 6 years before law school. And really, I went to law school because I wanted to get off of public benefits. And I guess I had just a vested interest in the law because it was suddenly profoundly affecting my life. And so I was, I went to, I applied to law school. I got in at Berkeley, and I would say they were pretty good about accommodations. The one thing, we've been under construction for the last, ever since I've been there, basically. I've never seen the campus not under construction. And so it's sometimes difficult to get around there, but for the most part, they have a really strong disabled students program on campus. And the people in the law school have also been very accommodating. And then while I was in law school, I kind of did a lot of different things. I worked for Bay Area Legal Aid in Oakland doing public benefits work, which was really rewarding because I had been in the shoes of most of the clients that I was serving. I'd been on SSI and Medicaid and Medicare, and so I got to learn a lot about sort of how that system works, which was helpful for my own sake, but then also just to serve clients that with whom I could really empathize. And then I worked for a law firm my second summer up in Oregon, and really enjoyed it. I liked the people there a lot more than I thought I would, and the work was more interesting than I thought it would be. But like I think a couple of people have already mentioned, I felt like I could not work 60, 70, 80-hour weeks just due to health reasons. I actually had some health issues while I was in law school, and ended up having to take some extra time to graduate. That's why I finished in December. And so after that, and I got an extra summer to intern. I decided to go and try to get a job with the federal government because I knew that they had really great benefits and paid well, and were also looking to hire people with disabilities. And I think it's one of the only employers out there that's actively searching for people with disabilities. And I had a great experience. I interned at EPA last summer in San Francisco and really liked it, really liked the people. The work was interesting, and so I applied to their honors fellowship program in the fall, and like most government honors programs, it just has dragged out forever. But I was really fortunate yesterday. I finally heard from them and was offered a position there, and so I think that's what I'm going to do, and I'm really excited about it. And I think we can talk about this more, but for anybody out there who's looking for work, I just really would stress looking into working for the federal or state governments. Like I said, they're one of the few employers that are actively looking for people with disabilities, and so it's a great place to start, and I really enjoyed being there. So I guess I'll just I'll open it up with a question, and then please feel free if you guys have questions, follow-up questions, whatever, just to raise your hand and try to get to as many of them as we can. But I guess I'm curious from you guys. I mean, most of you have been practicing law for at least a decade, and some of you since before the ADA was passed. How has hiring of people with disabilities changed in your lifetime, both in the private and the public sector, if at all?
Well, I think in the corporate world, it's almost worse. I don't know, Christine, if you have an opinion, but I have not seen it improve. What I have seen improve is the caliber of the people with disabilities coming through, looking for jobs in corporate. I mean, I look at resumes and really try internally to be able to push. So I think, that you guys coming through are much more qualified, than I felt like that I was at that time. But I don't see it in the numbers of folks that are getting hired, and if they do, it's very hard to stay there. But partly, it's hard to stay there. For anybody these days working part-time in a corporate firm, I mean, at least, a huge firm, I mean, Moto's over 1,000 attorneys. And when you say those 80-hour weeks, I mean, they really are 80-hour weeks. I remember my last trial, I had worked every day for a month. And I was in the middle of a deposition, and the attorney on the other side was giving me such a hard time. And I said, the last BART train leaves at 12:20, and I've got to be on that train. And, there's no other way to get home. And he starts like, are you calling this deposition? And I just thought, what am I doing? Life is just too short to be doing this. And that's when I started looking for something else. But, I have not seen it significantly improve. You see a few folks, out there, but it is really hard to stay with the expectations. It's hard for anybody to work part-time at corporate firms. You see it with moms, and maybe they can survive with one kid, maybe two, but it is tough. I don't mean to be so discouraging.
So I'll provide the
Balance to that.
I'll provide the balance to that. So it's hard for me to tell. I've worked for so many different places. It's hard for me to figure out whether what I'm seeing are changes or just difference in who I'm working for. But one thing I can say that was really significant about moving from a law firm environment like what Kathi and I had worked in for a decade, and working in-house and experiencing Microsoft was